Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is being held here for the reason that our caucus is being partially renovated, and for no other reason, in case someone has a penchant to rewrite this as well. Can I say that in the campaign, I saw a lot of people who are voters, but I didn't see many of you. And what's astonishing about the requests that are coming from the media at the moment is how many people turned up after the election when we couldn't affect the vote, who somehow think we've got a terrible responsibility to be fulfilled where the media of this country is concerned. I regret that, because it's not democracy and it's not what MMP since the last 21 years has been about. I want to also say that when you see so many news articles and debates on television and in the media about the New Zealand First leader or what New Zealand First is going to do without us being present on occasion after occasion after occasion and for month after month, you somewhat realise that something's gone wrong with our democracy in terms of the fair presentation and balanced reporting. And then today in the Dom, I pick up this paper and it's got an article from an experienced journalist, well, I would have thought so, who begins in the first paragraph with respect to not being able to tell you what we're going to do. It says, but he's up to his old trick of keeping everyone guessing. Now, frankly, if that's the value you place on journalistic integrity, you go right ahead. But the reality is, you could point to the Electoral Commission and others and ask yourself why it is that 384,000 people will not have their vote counted until the 7th of October. And maybe then, with a bit of presence of mind, you could say to yourselves, that may be the reason why New Zealand First has to withhold its view, because we don't know yet what the exact, precise voice of the New Zealand people is. And certainly most not would be the case if you have 384,000, that's 15% of the vote, yet to be counted. That will change things, in my view. That's been our experience in the past, and we want to have regard to that. Now, as for today's meeting, we met as a caucus to run through every possible permutation or option that we had. We first of all forswore as a group of MPs to ensure that we didn't put our own personal views from the leader to the most newest member of caucus above the interests of the party and above the interests of the country. That's what I said on election night, and that's what we're going to do. I want to tell you that we're not going to be persuaded or dissuaded by any of the speculative drivel that's been written by some of you around this country, and you should be, frankly, ashamed of yourselves. It's not true. It's utterly false. And I don't hate people, and nor do my colleagues hate people in the seminal way some of you seem to think. You might, but we don't. We know we've got a bigger responsibility, and we're going to fulfill it, whether you're going to give us a fair go in that exercise or not. But what we're going to do is make a decision in the national interest when we know what the people of this country have said and in what numbers, and when we know with precision what we're dealing with. Because in the end, it is the economy we're talking about and the social consequences of that economy, and that is a huge responsibility. This will be the last press conference I'm going to hold until after the 7th of October. No matter what you ask or say, I can't with any intelligence, nor can my colleagues, tell you what we're going to do until we have seen all the facts. Most professional people have that view of life. All New Zealand First. Any questions? Well, it's quite possible, but I'd want to be putting those caveats on any conversation with anyone, whether it be those two or anybody else, or anybody from the public for that matter. Because frankly, that's the circumstance that we've been delivered. We can't change that. And all I'm asking for is a bit of understanding, rather than the tripe that some people are putting out, malicious, malignant, and vicious in the extreme, of the nature which they were doing before the election without me being there, and now they're continuing it on. Well, anything's possible. I mean, I had the unusual circumstance of getting in a queue this morning at the Auckland airport to have the next person behind me, the person I'm meant to despise according to one of the so-called media authorities in this country, namely Stephen Joyce. We had a brief conversation about that, of course. He was as understanding of the character of the person who wrote that as I am. Well, you're not getting a free hit here, mate. Get that through your head right now. What I said I was going to do is precisely what I'm going to do, and you'll know that date is the 12th, Thursday the 12th of October. It so happens that the 7th is a Saturday. But we got all that on train. We've been around here for a long time. We've got a rough idea what we're going to do. Maybe not as highly tuned or as intelligent as you people, but we do know what we're going to do. What would I sound? But we've had a campaign. It's gone on for the last year. I know what they've said. I know what every other political party has said. I got their costings. My people have got their costings. They haven't got mine, of course, because they got them all wrong. But I've got their costings, and I can produce a paper that sets it out. What would I sound them about? I've got a very, very intelligent group of people who have worked their way through everyone's manifesto, worked at all the similarities, the possibilities, and where it might go. So that when we do have a meeting, we'll have a very intelligent conversation, and we won't be, and you'd be grateful for this, wasting anybody's time. Well, why would you ask a question like that? I'm still asking you, I know you'd like to know the answer, but why on earth would you ask a question like that? It is a totally unreasonable question. Well, I'm asking you, why would we have the discussion and you can't tell me? Who's we? Oh, really? Now, with the greatest respect, the New Zealand public don't want to be misinformed by mindless speculation. Well, you asked me. Well, look, excuse me, I don't want to get in an argument with you here. All I said was I can't talk to you until I know what the 384,000 people who have cast their vote have said. That's huge. Don't diminish it. And please don't write the kind of thing that says someone's got moral authority. For what? We're not on the first past the post here. We're on to MMP. And I expect the media to catch up after 21 years. Well, to be honest with you, I think we've got to all have a good hard look and ask ourselves, how did we trend from 2011 to 2014 to a circumstance now where in 2017 we have to wait all this time? If you want to look for blame, have a good hard look there, and then perhaps go through your recent reportings and musings and see how many times you wrote about that, all of you, instead of just blaming one person and demonizing him on TV every night. You know, when you ask your caucus colleagues to put aside all their bias and try and do what's right for the party, how would you come up with a favoured one? There are so many permutations. Guess how many there are? No, there's 9 permutations. Always have been. That's what we've got to face, and each one of them has to be seriously considered. Well, no, I'm respecting you. You're a political press gallery. You should know yourself without telling me. Because I'm reading about all your expert advice every day, and now you ask me for the most basic thing that you want to understand. Well, I'm talking to the experts now, namely you. We have preliminarily put the groups together, yes, because there are specialists for various things, and that's being finalised. Sorry? Well, not quite, no. That was the first question over here. Which part of that did you miss? Well, this is not news of the world, right? Try and step it up here. Excuse me. I'm talking to you. Yeah, I have. Well, I mean, the first question I got asked was that. I answered as clearly, as succinctly as I could. Then I got asked it again. That's the kind of thing I think is not good enough. But I'm talking to you now. Well, I think they've clearly signalled, both Labor and National, that they want to talk to us as the two old parties, so to speak. Well, the team that they sided up with has signalled that they'd like to talk to us alone. Well, whether I was or not, it doesn't really matter. It's the outcome that would matter. Well, I just said to you at the start that that's the approach that they've both asked for, and no one in my caucus, I can tell you that, without speaking out of turn, has raised an objection to that. Look, for my readings of the expert advice to the public from, namely yourselves, that's out of the question. So why are you raising it again? Now you've got carrying a flag for him, are you? I mean, the most expensive beneficiary in the country just lost his $750,000 job. That's what you told me, so I take that as read. And I haven't heard a demur from Mr. Seymour. He said he's taking one for the team, even though there's only a team of one. That's not one of the 9 permutations. Take a wild guess, come on. He ruled himself out, you've all ruled him out, so why is it being raised now? Well, I can't see the sense of holding a press conference. You're going to ask questions like that. Mr. Seymour has ruled himself out, and Mr. English has ruled him out. Why are you trying to raise it? In terms of intelligently, why would you try evoke that now? Well, of course it's going through my negotiating team. It's never gone all through me. Contrary to what you've said. Pardon? Possibly about 7 or 8. What's the next question? I'm here to talk about what everybody said they wanted me to talk about was how things to do with coalition formation going on. And that's what I'm here to talk about. That's what we had a discussion about in caucus today, and that subject didn't arise. Look, the term bottom line was your phrase during the whole election. You kept it up day in, day out. It wasn't New Zealand First phrase. It's the kind of misrepresentation that one has to live with. But we survived. I tell you, we survived okay, but it's not our term. Okay, well, with the greatest respect, are you serious? Every party has non-negotiable terms. Every party I know that's self-respecting, that's alive and survives, has got non-negotiable terms. But that's not part and parcel of this discussion. Well, you don't start a party 21 years ago, survived the third longest in this country's history since 1893, without you have non-negotiable terms. But I do not expect that to be central to this discussion. The Labour Party and the National Party and every other party is halfway intelligent enough to understand that you don't go into that sort of territory because you're going to get nowhere. Right? Look, I've heard that expression before. Rule things out. Look, I've heard that expression before, rule things out. That's not the smartest way to go into discussions, is it? No. Big pardon? Everybody does. Well, why would that be the case? He's not the National Party, he's just one member of it. Well, I'd wait till the end of the inquiry, wouldn't I? Then I'd be in the case of knowing what I was talking about, rather than being like some group of people just guessing all the time. That's why I'd hold the inquiry. No, look, please don't come and talk to me about bottom lines for the umpteenth time. I kind of think it's a thing to do with common sense. Someone has raised some serious allegations, really serious. Those allegations, if they're not true, are defamatory and libelous. And I'm not going to let that just slide by. No. So I think an inquiry should be held. We're not in a grouping with the Green Party. Well, the reality is that the party has to consider all the permutations that are available. And it would have occurred to you that that's one of them. But Ben, at the moment, I know the National Party is talking with the Greens. We all know that because you told me. We haven't had a chance to go out to our membership, but we will be doing that, and we discussed that in caucus today. Only then will we have an idea as to the party's feeling. No, we'll go to our members and tell them what we're dealing with. That's the first thing we're going to do, and we'll do it in the next 24 hours. Well, that's between me and them. If you want to join the party, you can be a part of that information as well. But in the meantime, that's a totally impertinent question. This is a party political matter, internal matter. You all know that. So don't try and make me look secretive by asking me a question you know I can answer. No party leader can answer that question. Oh, well, yeah, it gets worse. Now you want me to tell me what the emails are from my private membership are saying. That's a confidential matter. You should know that. What do you say, Ms. Vance? Yeah, well, ask me some sensible ones and ones that I can answer because I can't give you private, confidential party information. You knew that before the question was asked. Of course you'd be struggling. You're a news of the world person. That doesn't know anything about facts and honesty and integrity. It shows in your approach when you present this party every night. Well, we've got meetings coming up. We've got board meetings coming up. We're going to be writing to them. We'll be emailing them. That's how it'll be done. Well, seeing as I haven't talked to her, how could it be at my request? No. Stay where you are on your first question, because I expect some intelligence here. If she hasn't spoken to me and we haven't communicated, how could it be at my request? Well, it's the same thing. If it came with my authority, it's at my request. No. Well, that's the point. I haven't talked to her. If I was talking to my chief of staff, if he was doing it on my authority, that would be on my request. That's what authority means. Well, I'm not going to discuss that because that wasn't what was presented to the media vicariously to me. Where are you from? Yeah, it shows. Next question, please. Don't come and ask a silly question like that. What are your policy priorities going to be? I've been around for 21 years, this party, made a whole lot of sacrifice and been demonised and Cinderellaized and marginalised by everybody. And don't you come over here and start. No, you know that I said there are people in the media that I seriously admire. I think they've got integrity. I think there's not enough of them. And then I'm very much concerned about the media ownership, whose behaviour through the editorials in terms of their malignant attitude towards New Zealand First knows no bounds. You've read all the editorials. Bias to beat the band, big fun. Yeah, but for the sake of your modesty, I can't possibly answer that question. It's very difficult to analyse them actually, because there's not a trend between 2011 and 2007 and 2014. So I don't know what the trend might be now. And the worst thing out is to hear this, what I call minus university coffee bar discussion, based on nothing so much as someone's bias and prejudice. You recognise what I'm talking about, don't you, when I say that? But I don't want my party to do that. It's a waste of our time. Well, actually, no, that wasn't the trend in 2014. We actually went that way. We got within 9 votes of getting another seat. You got that part wrong. Please do. But I've got it here with me. No, just in case I was running into you, I bought it. Well, you have to have regard to what your caucus colleagues say. We vote as a caucus and as a board together in the end, not just a decision of one group. And that board will have been speaking right across the country to our membership. And that'll take some time. But it'll be well in the time of getting a feel for things before we start getting the hard copy or the hard news of the 7th of October. No, that's not in our constitution. Quite the contrary. The constitution trusts the board and the MPs to make the decision. No. We're not like the rest. You can't buy us off. All right? That's why we didn't have all those millions in this campaign. A matter of seems to be rather trite as far as you guys are concerned, but it actually is a disgraceful development in New Zealand politics. For what? Well, Stacey Kirk wrote that down the other day, and I was actually alarmed to see it. No, not Stacey Kirk, sorry, not Stacey Kirk. Another journalist wrote that down the other day about that deal and how I was so upset because we didn't have one. I can't believe that a person would write that, actually, given that we've prided ourselves in never, ever doing any deal with any other political party. And to suggest it as they did in the last 3 days, and I'm trying to remember the article which was written, is, in my view, just plain grubby journalism. I have never asked for a deal and never will. It's the reason why we're standing up in front of you today as the party that is where it is of all those new parties. This is a deal before the election for electoral seats, which is what the question was. That's when I can say that. All right. Thank you very much. Now write about it. So I'm not seeing anything else.